You remember the first time you heard the phrase passive income. You were sitting in a break room at work eating a sandwich you made at home because the lunch spot downstairs had raised their prices again, and $12 for a sandwich felt like too much when you were already watching every dollar, with the particular attention of someone whose account balance required it. Someone at the table was watching a video on their phone, loud enough that you could hear it without trying to. A man on a screen talking about money he made while he slept. Income that arrived, whether he worked or not. Dollars that generated other dollars in a loop that did not require his time or his presence or his permission. You remember thinking it sounded like a scam. Not because you were cynical, because nothing in your experience of money had ever suggested that it worked that way. In your experience, money worked one way. You showed up somewhere. You exchanged your time for it. You took it home. You spent most of it on the things that life cost. You did it again next week. That was the system. That was how money worked for every person you had ever known. The idea that money could arrive without you showing up somewhere and exchanging your time for it belonged to a category of things that sounded too good to be real. You finished your sandwich. You went back to work. You forgot about the video. But the phrase stayed somewhere in the back of your mind. Passive income. Like a door you had noticed without trying the handle. 3 months later, you tried the handle. Not because of a dramatic moment. Not because of a crisis or a revelation or a mentor who appeared at the right time with the right words. Because of a number. Your own number. The number in your account on the morning of the 23rd of the month, when you were 3 days from payday, and the balance was $180, and you had a full tank of gas and half a fridge. And the particular quality of financial tension that comes from knowing that the math only works if nothing unexpected happens between now and Friday. Nothing unexpected happened. Friday arrived. The direct deposit landed. The tension dissolved the way it always dissolved. Until the 23rd of next month, when it would be back exactly where it was. You sat at your kitchen table, and you thought about the phrase, passive income. Not as a fantasy, as a question. What would it actually take? Not to get rich, not to never work again. Just to have something arriving that was not dependent on you showing up somewhere and exchanging your time for it. Just enough to make the 23rd of the month feel different. Just enough to change the math. You opened your laptop and you started reading. What you found was not a scam. It was not a secret that wealthy people were hiding from everyone else. It was not complicated or exclusive, or requiring of special knowledge that most people were never given access to. It was mathematics, simple and unambiguous, and available to anyone willing to understand it and act on it. The mathematics said this: if you own something that produces income and you own enough of it, the income it produces covers your expenses and you no longer need to exchange your time for money. That was the whole system. Own income-producing assets. Accumulate enough of them. Stop trading time for money. The assets keep producing whether you are working or sleeping or sitting at a kitchen table on the 23rd of the month watching the balance. The assets you could afford to start with were simple. Index funds that own pieces of hundreds of companies at once. Dividend-paying stocks that sent you a portion of their profits every quarter. Simple, boring instruments that had been producing returns for ordinary investors for decades. Not exciting. Not the kind of thing that generated social media content or dinner party conversation. Just reliable income-producing machines that you could own for the price of whatever you could transfer into a brokerage account on the first of every month. You transferred $200 that night. You bought an index fund? You went to bed. The handle had been tried. The door was open. Level 1. $100 a month in passive income. It took 14 months to get here. 14 months of $200 automatic transfers and market returns and dividends reinvested. And the particular patience of someone building something that produces no visible results for a long time before producing results that are impossible to ignore. $100 a month. Not enough to change your life. Not enough to quit your job, or pay a significant bill, or do anything dramatic with. Enough to matter in a different way. Enough to prove that the system worked. That passive income was not a phrase from a video in a break room that belonged to other people. It was real, and it was yours. And it was $100 a month arriving in your account, whether you worked or not. You remember the first dividend payment, $11.40 deposited on a Tuesday morning while you were at work. $11.40 that required absolutely nothing from you. No shift, no meeting, no email, no commute, no exchange of time. Just $11.40 that appeared because you owned something that produced income. You stared at it for a long time. $11.40 felt more significant than any paycheck you had ever received. Not because of the amount, because of what it represented. A category of income that had not existed in your life before. A proof of concept. A first step on a staircase, whose top you could not yet see, but could now prove was real. The 23rd of the month still came with tension. The balance still required watching. $100 a month was not enough to change the fundamental texture of your financial life. But it changed something underneath the texture. Something in the foundation. The knowledge that you had built something that produced income without requiring your presence changed the way you thought about money in a way that was permanent and irreversible. You increased the automatic transfer to $300. Level 2. $500 a month in passive income. 3 years and 4 months from the first transfer. Your account had grown through contributions and compounding, and the particular momentum that builds slowly and then all at once. $500 a month. Every month. Whether you worked or not. Whether the market was up or down. Whether you were paying attention or not. $500 a month changed something concrete. It paid your car payment. The $487 that left your account every month for the used Honda that got you to work and back had been the source of a specific and recurring monthly anxiety since the day you signed the financing paperwork. Now it was covered. Not by your salary, by your assets, by the income-producing machines you had been accumulating quietly for 3 years. You sat down one evening and did something you had never done before. You calculated what percentage of your monthly expenses were covered by passive income. Your total monthly expenses were $3,200. Your passive income was $500. That was 15.6%. 15.6% of your life was no longer dependent on you showing up somewhere and exchanging your time for money. The number seemed small. It was small, but it was not zero. And the distance between 0 and 15.6% was the entire distance between a life where every dollar required your time and a life where some dollars did not. You had crossed that distance 3 years ago with a $200 transfer, and you were never going back. The car payment was covered. What else could be covered? You increased the automatic transfer to $500. Level 3. $1,000 a month in passive income. 5 years and 2 months from the beginning. 4 figures. Every month. Passive. $1,000 a month changed the texture of the 23rd. Not eliminated it, not yet. The balance still required watching. The math still required attention. But the tension had a different quality now. Softer. Less sharp. Because $1,000 a month was arriving regardless of what the balance said. And that $1,000 meant that the gap between the 23rd and payday was a smaller problem than it used to be. Not no problem. A smaller one. $1,000 a month covered the car payment and the utilities and the groceries. 3 of the most concrete and recurring expenses in your monthly life were now covered by assets rather than labor. You went to work every day and exchanged your time for your salary, and your salary paid your rent and your insurance and the other things that life cost. But the car and the utilities and the groceries were paid by something else. Something that did not require your time. Something that ran quietly in the background of your life, whether you showed up anywhere or not. You started thinking differently about your job. Not with contempt, with choice. The specific and unfamiliar feeling of showing up somewhere because you wanted to, rather than because the math required it. Not fully, not yet. The math still required it mostly, but the seed of choice had been planted, and it was growing with every month that the passive income grew. You read everything you could find about the investors who had walked this path before you. Benjamin Graham, who described the stock market not as a casino, but as a machine for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Warren Buffett, who turned Graham's principles into the greatest investing track record in human history by doing essentially nothing more dramatic than buying good things at reasonable prices and having the patience to hold them through every storm the market produced. Peter Lynch, who managed the most successful mutual fund in history by understanding that ordinary investors had advantages that professionals did not, the ability to observe the world around them and identify companies worth owning before Wall Street noticed them. You were not Graham or Buffett or Lynch. You did not have their knowledge or their instincts or the decades of experience that produced their results, but you had their principles. And the principles were enough. Buy good things, pay reasonable prices, hold through the storms, let time do the work, never stop. You increased the automatic transfer to $700. Level 4, $2,000 a month in passive income. 7 years from the beginning. $2,000 a month. This was the level where something fundamental shifted. $2,000 a month covered your rent. Not helped with your rent. Not contributed toward your rent. Covered it. The single largest expense in your monthly life, the $1,950 that left your account on the first of every month for the apartment that you slept in and ate in and lived in, was now covered by passive income, by assets, by the income-producing machines you had been accumulating for 7 years through automatic transfers and market returns and the refusal to stop. You did the calculation again. Your total monthly expenses were $3,400. Your passive income was $2,000. That was 8%. More than half of your monthly life was no longer dependent on you exchanging your time for money. 58.8%. You sat with that for a long time. More than half of your financial life had been quietly transferred from the category of things that required your time to the category of things that did not. In 7 years. From $200 a month, through nothing more exotic than consistency and patience, and the refusal to let the 23rd of the month be the defining experience of your financial life forever. The job was different now. Genuinely different. Not in the work itself, in the weight of it. You showed up and did the work, and did it well because doing it well was who you were, and not because the alternative was a specific and concrete financial consequence. The freedom to do good work without desperation produced a quality of work that desperation had never produced. Your manager noticed. Your colleagues noticed. The particular lightness of someone who was there by choice rather than necessity showed in ways that were impossible to fully articulate, but impossible to miss. You increased the automatic transfer to $900. Level 5. $3,500 a month in passive income. 9 years from the beginning. This was the level you had seen in the video in the break room. The level that had sounded like a scam when you heard it the first time, and now was simply your account balance on the first of every month. $3,500 a month arriving. Whether you worked or not, whether you were paying attention or not, whether you got out of bed or not. $3,500